Hi everyone, I've hit the ground running this week, landing on Monday back from South by Southwest EDU and then chairing an Edtech exchange event at the London Book Fair on Tuesday. Thanks everyone who came along. This week I also recorded with Wibu about language learning and gaming, and that episode will come out on April the 2nd. A few notes before we kick off this week. UK-based Edtech accelerator Emerge Education are kicking off their 8th cohort with an open day on Thursday 13th of April. Anyone interested in taking part can check out the show notes for the link. The Edtech Podcast will also be one in April, and we're celebrating by throwing a party in a pub in London. If you can make it, please do come down. It will be on April 27th at the Joker pub in Angel. All details are in the show notes, and I'd love to see as many of you there as possible. Finally, you may have seen the sad note from the Educational Technology Association, Naace, about their offices closing. The email also requests a call to sponsors and members for support. To find out more and how you might be able to help, check the show notes. Okay, on to this week's podcast. This week, I'm extremely excited to bring you an Edtech Podcast Extra with award-winning musician and innovator Imogen Heap. Recorded at BET 2017, we talk about developing the technology of the MiMu gesture glove over the last 7 years and having the confidence to step outside of expected musical forms, influenced by the open movements of makers and hackers. We mentioned sneaking around MIT lab, Naace, and why Imogen is excited about VR and the potential to stay connected, as well as create new musical forms in 3 dimensions and why this matters to learners. For those of you interested in the musical side of the podcast, keep your eyes out for more on this theme from Ted Fujimoto on an announcement from Roland in a few weeks. You should also check out BET Award finalist Study Track, who are doing cool things with music and learning. For those of you interested in the VR biology side of the podcast, check back in for the final BET Trends episodes next time to hear more on the subject from AR company Curoscope and from apps developers TinyBot. Enjoy, folks, and thank you to Imogen. Very excited to be here with Imogen Heap, who, as someone, now I'm probably going to start this off on the wrong tack straight away, but as someone who's been inspired and entertained by Bill Bailey and his what is that machine? The wah wah one. That one. I'm sorry,
He's seen the gloves.
Yes. Oh, has he? What did he think about them?
Well, it's actually, I spoke to his manager, who was like, he would love these, you must get in touch, and then nothing happened. But he's awesome. I've been to see him live a few times.
Yeah, he's
a very funny man.
So Imogen, could you tell us a little bit about what you were speaking about? I think what I'm really interested in, and the people listening would be really interested in, is what that means in terms of getting creativity in the minds of young people and not being, okay, we've got technology here or science here and arts here, and what that means to you, perhaps.
Yeah, so I suppose 20 years ago, I signed my first record deal, and back in those days, it was like, you make music and that's it. Don't even think about directing a video or doing any artwork or dressing yourself. It's like, this is the way it's done. And it took me a long time to kind of shed those ideas and have the courage to step out and collaborate with people doing things completely outside of my comfort zone. And so over the last 7 years, I've been developing a piece of technology called the MiMu gloves to help me reach inside my computer to be able to augment those acoustic sounds or samples that I may be making live, to bring them to life physically instead of just hiding behind a laptop. And this has made me think very differently about music making, and it gets me very excited about the next generation, about that they're not going to be stuck behind laptops for hours on end. They're going to be interacting with their software and their hardware gesturally.
Yeah, so in a physical way. So, I mean, it's a bit of a marketing term, but this phygital idea, so physical and digital interacting.
I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, it's a bit quirky. And I just bumped into a teacher who's a fan of yours on the way down, and he was saying that, as he understood it, that you came across this idea and the technology at MIT. Is that correct?
Yeah. So my friend, who later ended up working for me, she's called Kelly Snook. She worked at Naace.
Oh, wow,
and as a fan, she got in touch with me when we were on tour. In fact, on that 2009 tour, and she said, "Imogen, if you and your team want to come and have a look around the Goddard Space Centre, I'll show you around." And I was like, "Hello."
Yes, please.
So she took us around, and she picked us up in this big van and drove us into the Space Centre, and we had that most amazing time, and touched bits of things that had been in space, and seen the world's biggest speaker, and where they do testing for sound. The vibrations, and it was really, really fascinating. Anyway, so she invited me to the MIT Media Lab because she was doing a scientist in residence space, sonifying the solar system, as you do.
Yeah.
I turned up on one of their open days, kind of unofficially, I realised, and I kind of had to do a little bit of hiding from one of the teachers there, but it's all fine now. And I came across this woman called Ellie Jessup who developed this glove. I saw many bits of tech, but this was the one that really, really resonated, because for many years I've been trying to figure out how to get closer to that software, how to get away from the computer and away from all these kind of chunky bits of technology that weigh me down and cost a lot of money on tour. How can I lighten that and get closer to the sounds and get closer to the audience by not disengaging and kind of going to the central nervous system or whatever. So seeing this glove and seeing this simple gesture, she'd worked on basically she had a long glove on one hand and she sang something, and then when she made a pinching gesture, the audio, the sampler took a little tiny nanosecond of her voice and then synthesized that into a tone, and then it was like she was holding the tone. So then she would sing on, but she would hold the tone, and then we kind of move her hand like a vibrato on a string, and that gesture, that whole thing, I was like, wow, that's what I'm looking for. Is I don't need to hold a thing to be able to do something. I can just integrate it into my performance. I can still play the piano, I can still play guitar, I can still do stuff all around. But this wasn't wireless, and that was as far as it went. And I wasn't able to collaborate with them because they wouldn't let me. So then I went home and I discovered actually there were loads of people making music with gloves, but they were their own idiosyncratic kind of systems that they'd built with like a whole mess of wires and like their brain downloaded in some software which you couldn't read if you were, whoever you were. And there was this one woman called Letitia Sonami who'd been doing it for nearly 30 years. The thing she calls the lady glove. So I really needed something so that I could access all those off-the-shelf tools that I love to use in the studio and on stage. And so over the years, we've now developed a system which enables me to do that, and anyone else for that matter, because that's the thing that was missing, is that people could develop these things, but you would only be able to be doing it as long as you knew how to code or develop a piece of hardware. But as you realise, when you kind of put the word out there, that lots of people want to build that thing, but maybe they're not the end user, so they don't have they don't have the full cycle. For them as well, they must be really excited because you can help to showcase the innovations out there that bring it all together. So you say that it's sort of under the radar slightly, but you can kind of help deliver that to a wider audience, I suppose. Yeah, I really hope that, there are gloves coming out left, right and centre now, but the kind of the jewel in our crown is this software, is the connective tissue between the device that it's reading from, and in our case it's the gloves, but we can also use Leap Motion, we can use Connect, we can use the iPhone, we can use like headsets that map your brainwaves. There's a couple that we've got SDKs for and we're kind of working it with, but then you can map any gesture or any thought, waves to any MIDI or OSC address. So it can be visual, it can be anything that reads OSC. And what's your background? So I'm just thinking about your own educational experience, and what's amazing now is you take this sort of musical excellence and then this excitement around technology and mould them together. So was that something you experienced when you were younger as well? Yeah, I didn't really realise that. I didn't ever see them as separate. I guess I didn't realise until I saw Ellie Jessup's glove that there were people around who could build stuff like that. I just thought it was done in secret science labs. Well, I guess MIT Media Lab is a bit of a science lab, but I didn't realise it was people that weren't in big institutions that with big loads of money that could do these things. And then I discovered all these hackers and makers building all this crazy stuff, and I got involved in that world and found an amazing team, and together we built this stuff. But from a very early age, I've never coding is something that was like very far out of my my vision, but I really enjoy programming in terms of programming using software that musicians can use that I don't have to write code for. So back in the day, that was Sibelius. There's a thing called Sibelius, and it was like black and white on a screen, and it was kind of numbers, but using general MIDI sounds and pretty horrible. But when I was 12, I discovered an Atari computer with this basic software on it, and it just blew my mind that I didn't have to write stuff down anymore, because I did. I wrote, I did theory, I studied classical music, and studied all that stuff, arrangement, and but in order for anyone to hear my orchestral works, then I would have to wait for the school orchestra, which was non-existent, to play them, so I'd never hear them. So this way I could type something in and I could hear it back, and then I could imagine vaguely what that might sound like, and other people could hear what's in my head who didn't read music. So it was really fascinating.
Sharing other. So I know you're pushed for time, so my final question is, which are some of your favourite aesthetic experiences in terms of stagecraft as well? So whether it's musicians or feats of technology where you've been really wowed, like you were with the glove for the first time?
Just the other day, actually. I was very lucky to get invited to the World Economic Forum in Davos.
Cold.
Yeah, freezing cold. And just recently also seen a bit of technology just at Digital Catapult in London. One was VR and one was the Microsoft HoloLens.
Okay.
And the HoloLens really amazed me. I was like, the idea of, obviously, like, you can quickly see how musicians might get excited about visualizing something and the audience seeing something in the room, and you shifting that and changing that with the gloves, for instance, or whatever it might be. But seeing the difference that would do, and I'm sure everyone must be talking about it, for education, to see, like, have a lesson on anatomy, and be able to look through the different systems and like see the digestive system and see the muscular system and see the brains, the different circuits in the brain. I mean, that was really amazing. And, I didn't even know where the appendix... I mean, I knew roughly where the appendix was, but to actually see what it looked like and how small it was...
We don't really have to worry about it, do we, until something goes wrong, and then we're like, oh, where is everything? And,
but it's fascinating to be able to, like... I really got a gauge. I mean, I went to see that exhibition that was horrendous. Oh, it wasn't horrendous, it was fascinating. You know what I mean?
On Brick Lane.
It took me 3 times before I could finally, I can't touch things and look at them and... carved up real bodies. But but this is the reality of how kids will be learning this stuff in the future, and I'm sure eventually they'll get onto real bodies and doing stuff like that. But this is an amazing introduction into that, and get their ideas flowing and the passion going.
Well, and you could have a school kid anywhere in the world that could actually access a simulation of MIT lab, for example, who couldn't get there otherwise. So
and the people in the MIT lab could talk to them in the virtually. And then, so the next one I just did a couple of days ago was with this company called Wave VR. They were using the Vibe headset, and that was a VR total immersive experience where that was really overstimulating for me, actually.
More stimulating than Bet. It can't be possible.
Oh yeah, it's true. It is like being in alternate reality here, to be honest. There's so much stuff going on. But to be able to... I was chatting to some people who were in Austin, and one of them was a cat, one of them was a lion, one of them was a mouse, and I was a fox, and we were all standing on this rock with a sheer drop with like stars all around us and some crazy colours and some music, and I had all these tools accessible with my little gaming devices in my hands and this visor on my head. And I was chatting to them as if they were literally right there, and there was no delay, and it was really incredible. And I got so hopeful about the future of how I might interact with my daughter, who, I know she's going to be off in space. I know she's called Scout. I know she's going to be off on tangents, and I'm not going to see her for years, probably. And I know how I was, very young as well, not ever seeing my mum or dad. So I'm really excited about, even though I'm not going to be with her, but it felt like
you can
that
keep
real
that
connection, and maybe we could go to the cinema virtually together and have a chat, and we can't touch each other, but it was just
but you can have haptics,
kind of a hug.
Yeah,
it's true. That's the next step, isn't it? So just amazing, really.
Amazing. And if people want to keep up with the innovations that you're working on and that kind of thing, how can they do that?
It's hard, actually. That's part of the thing that I want to innovate in, is how to design these kind of end nodes of kind of creative passports for people to find information about any artist and what they're up to, a kind of hub of information, verified information. So I haven't yet done that, but I attempted it with my website, which is Imogen Heap.
Yes, I've been there.
ImogenHeap.com. This kind of world that you kind of go and explore, but just haven't got enough hours in the day, basically. But you can go there.
That's because you've got such an appetite to do, I can tell, all these different things. So anyway, Imogen, thank you so much, and I appreciate the time today.
Pleasure, Sophie. Right.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Before you go, don't forget the Edtech Podcast has been entered to the British Podcasting Awards, and you can vote for us by going to www.britishpodcastawards.com/vote and typing in the Edtech Podcast. Have a great week.